School Board meeting to order. Mr. Adams, would you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Mr. Petrie? Here. Ms. Terry?
Here.
Mr. Ray?
Here.
Mrs. Frola?
Here.
Mr. Hofer?
Here.
Would you stand for the pledge of allegiance? Thank you. At this time, citizens' comments on agenda items are welcome. Participants will be limited to 5 minutes duration. Are there any citizens' comments?
Hi, everyone. I'm Tina Hartong, SLAC president. I have been asked to ask several questions this evening and ask for your input. One, with the additional cost of hiring a transportation supervisor and the purchasing of buses and software, are we receiving immediate costs this year?
Dustin, you want to talk about that, or? We had a transportation, committee, and we had a detailed, cost analysis of that. We knew we were gonna have to hire a transportation, that was part of the equation. The amount that we estimated was higher than what we were actually spending for the new contract. And we had, Dustin, we have software, but we had a certain amount of money in there. Like $75,000, I believe it was.
Yeah,
for
we had an extra
miscellaneous.
$75,000 in startup cost factored into the analysis that we conducted there, and a $10,000 per year line item for the routing software there. So beyond year one, the routing software will be $5,800 a year, which will be well below that line item's budget there. And in year one, it's about $17,000, which the addition, no, $17,000 for the whole year, is covered by the startup expenses there.
Okay.
So overall, the cost to bring it in-house will be cheaper than continuing with the contract that we had.
So this year, there will be an acquired savings,
Yes.
and then subsequently years after. After the lease purchase is done, these buses are ours, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then, have we considered that in the past with more students and more busing, that we did not have an administrative supervisor position for this, and we do now, or we're adding one now?
That was part of the contract with First Student. They provided a supervisor position in the garage there.
Okay, so they provided it before, we're going to provide it now.
Yes.
And it was installed in their costs to us.
And that's
Okay.
not administrative, is it?
Well, it's
It's a
it's a supervisor.
Supervisor, not
Supervisor.
administration.
Right.
Okay.
And on that line item, we are spending less annually than what we budgeted in our analysis as well.
Okay, and one last question. How did we reach the decision to add an additional administrative position? I know we weren't rehiring an administrative assistant at Schropp, but.
We're hiring an administrative, we're keeping the same amount.
So we had a posting for an assistant at
Yes.
the 7 through 12 building. That's
Right,
on top of what we have right now.
for you guys, but we didn't replace the assistant principal at Schropp.
Okay,
So it's the same amount of administrators that we've had in the past. So
Okay.
it's not adding an administrator. Does that make sense?
it does, but we didn't need, we found that we didn't need two at Schropp, correct?
Because we took a grade away from them, so it's only gonna be 3 grades now.
Okay, but we're adding,
One to Spring Hill, but I've already talked with Mrs. Ganser about that, and we've come up with a plan.
okay.
She
And
doesn't-
then
she
we're
doesn't-
adding one assistant in the 7 through 12.
We're adding, we're adding one to we're taking one and we're just rearranging them. for right
Okay.
now.
Okay,
But we're not hiring we're not hiring another administrator.
okay.
Does that make sense?
I just think it's not real clear if we didn't need one at Schropp, and we didn't need an extra one this year, years past at the 7 through 12 building. The question is, why do we need to add one now?
Well, because of just of the reconfiguration that we're doing right now at the high school with the 7th and 8th grade, trying to separate them completely and make them their own entity.
Okay,
So,
that's all.
and we can
Thank
talk more about that,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
Yeah. And Tina, you know, anytime you have any questions, please just come see me.
Are there any other citizens' comments? At this time then, excuse me, it is recommended that the board approve a revised exempted employees benefit and salary agreement to reflect the addition of a transportation supervisor position.
So, if I'm not talking correctly, correct me.
Should we get,
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I got
we should
excited.
get a motion on
I'll motion it. I'll second.
So, we have several employees who don't fall into the certified position or an administrative, so they're in the exempted employees, contract, and we are now just adding our transportation supervisor to that contract.
That was the only change in the agreement, was a change in language to add a transportation supervisor to the covered employees.
And everything else is the same on that.
Am I correct? That's not an additional salary schedule, it's just moving a position into.
We already had
existing.
we already had a salary schedule for the maintenance supervisor, so we changed that to be department supervisors and used the existing scale, yes.
Thank you. Any other? Okay.
Ms. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Mrs. Frola?
Yes. Numbers, going to personnel, there's a resignation to the board, excuse me, recommends accepting the resignation of certified employee Joyce Housley effective the 2023-24 school year.
So moved.
No, we're doing,
Oh, we're doing them all,
I'm sorry.
Administrative contract, approve, did I read something
No,
wrong?
you're right.
you didn't.
Oh, okay. Administrative contract, approve a 3-year administrative contract for Danielle Starkey as the Springfield Junior High Associate Principal. Administrative contract, approve a 3-year administrative contract for David Jovanovich as Schropp Intermediate Principal.
I think that was somebody's, oh,
6.4, Superintendent Secretary Contract. Approve a 3-year contract for Paulette Ryan, who is the Superintendent Secretary. 6.5, Employment. Employ Kendra Cox as a 100% third-year teacher per the negotiated agreement pending proper licensure, and this would be effective for the 2023-24 school year. 6.6, Employment. Employ Claire Miller as a 100% second-grade teacher per the negotiated agreement pending proper licensure effective the 2023-24 school year. 6.7, Employment. Employ Dana Taylor as a 100% English Language Arts / theater teacher per the negotiated agreement pending proper licensure effective the 2023-24 school year. 6.8, Employment. Employ Melinda Hamilton as a 12-month transportation supervisor at step 5 with 2-week vacations per the exempted employees benefit and salary agreement pending proper licensure effective July 1, 2023. The motion before discussion.
So moved. I'll second the motion.
Has been moved and second, open for discussion.
So a couple things. 6.1, Joyce Housley, I wish I could have known her more than I have. I had a chance to sit down and talk with her, and she just said, you know what, she's a retiree hire. She said at the moment that she retired as a teacher, I think she was out 2 months, and she realized she missed it. So she came back as one of our literacy tutors. And then with the reconfiguration of our literacy tutors, she says it's time for her to start doing things and going out. So we thank her for her service. I think she's gonna be missed from a lot of people. So we're gonna miss her. And like I said, I really wish I could have had a chance to work with her. Administrative contract, so for Danielle Starkey, who's here today, thank you. One of the things that we talked about when the high school was created was that 7th and 8th grade was going to be a separate, when the school was built, the plan was to have a junior high principal and a high school principal, and keep the junior high separate from the high school. We know that through just changes and cuts and everything, it's become, the 7th grade and the 12th grade has become embedded together. And we know that 7th and 8th grade is a very special time for our kids. It's middle school, if anybody's ever been in a middle school. It's and Mrs. Hartung could attest to middle school. It's an interesting time for our kids, and we need to focus on 7th and 8th grade. So the idea with this would be with Mrs. Starkey, very impressed with her stuff that she had from her interviews that we had when she was applying for the Schropp position, and really trying to make the 7th and 8th grade special and focusing on behaviors, focusing on academics, focusing on making the right choices for our kids, and making the middle school something a little bit more special, instead of them just being thrown in as 7th through, and I think, and I'm really excited about that. Next, the administrative contract, Dave Dramanovich, he's here, thank you. We went through a large process to go through for the position. We had a screening interview, and then we had interviews with administrators, we had interviews with teachers, then we had interviews with parents, and each one was, Mary did an amazing job with it, so thank you, Mary. And Mr. Dramanovich came out, that's for the Schropp principal, and he and I have already been talking, and we have a lot of great plans moving on for Schropp for next year. You know, our goal is to change some of the perceptions of Schropp and make it a place to where, and he's already started to put some things into place, so thank you on that. Superintendent Secretary, this is for Paulette, and I can't say enough for Paulette being with me. I mean, she truly does save me quite a bit, so, and she is amazing, and she holds us all together. And being that, like, Mary doesn't have a secretary, a lot of times Paulette will help fill in to help us with what we need. Employment, Kendra Cox. Kendra's here. Thank you, Kendra. Kendra was somebody who was RIF'd with us 2 years ago, or not, last year. And when we had the opportunity to come back, she applied, and again, went through the interview process and came out. And Kendra, we're very happy to have you back with us. So, and I know your 3rd grade team is very excited to have you. I've gotten so many hugs from the 3rd grade teachers. It's fabulous. Claire Miller is going to be our 2nd grade teacher. She's not here today. I don't see her. Met with her again. She's going to be a great addition to our teaching staff. Dana Taylor is here. That's Dana. She interviewed, our interview, I was so excited. She's going to be an English language arts teacher, so this is going to be our high school's 2nd new English language arts teacher. So
And theater.
and theater. So yeah, and theater. So that's going to be good. And welcome. We are glad that you are here. You're welcome. And then Melinda Hamilton, who's also here, is going to take on the transportation supervisor, and if, the people who are in transportation, they know that is a very important job. You know, that's our kids, riding big yellow machines. So, thank you, Melinda. Okay, so, any questions on any of the hires there?
So just for clarification.
Sure.
We're really just shifting administrators around at the 7 to 12 building to focus on the 7th and 8th grade, correct?
Correct.
Because we had a principal and 2 associates,
We had a principal and 2 assistants.
assistants.
So what I'm doing is taking one of the assistants, making them the associate, okay? And then bringing in another assistant there, just so we can get the high school back to where we have to get it. So there'll be a principal, 2 assistants, and associate. Now, having that extra assistant principal there, one of the things that we found out within the district, that there are times where, you know, Mr. Jovanovich and, you know, Mrs. Ganger, let's say they might both be at a conference, or a, you know what, we can then take one of those assistants, and, you know, Mary does a great job going over to Schrock, we can take one and bring them to Spring Hill, or vice versa. So we have some versatile. Or if there's something going on in one of the buildings, let's say there's an incident where, I'm gonna use you, Mr. Jovanovich, because you're here. You know, Mr. Jovanovich is tied up with the situation, and sometimes we are, but he needs some help, we can say, hey, we need somebody to go down there to help. So it gives us a little bit of flexibility that we really haven't had before. And our focus then also is, yes, the focus on the 7th and 8th grade, which I'm really excited about, some of the changes that have already started to happen, but then focusing on our 9 through 12, and start, you know, bringing our high school back to where it should be. So I'm excited. I am excited for it. Yes.
I have a daughter that's going into 7th grade,
Mhm.
and is there gonna be like different bell schedules and stuff like that?
Not this year. That's something that we're gonna work on, but one of the things we are doing is lunchtime. Right now, the 7th and 8th grade eat lunch with the 9 through 12, so that's gonna be totally separate. We've also blocked ELA and math for an hour, so some of the schedules are going to be off a little bit. I know the teachers weren't too happy with Danielle, but we moved some classrooms. So 8th grade is downstairs, correct? So the whole 8th grade team is together downstairs, and the 7th grade team is upstairs, so we won't have a lot of them going up and down. And then keeping the bathrooms, like middle school bathrooms and high school bathrooms.
I think that's good.
Yes.
18-year-olds and 12-year-olds together, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
And I think if you talk to any, there's some 7th grade girls who've got googly eyes
Yeah.
over some of those,
I've seen
11th and
it
12th.
too.
You have googly eyes also? Okay. Over the 7th and 8th grade, so, but eventually, yes, a different bell schedule, and I think back when this building was originally created, I think from what I've read, and so, that was part, you know, I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this one, but I think that the whole idea was even to keep, like, the 7th and 8th grade should not even be, like, interacting at all with the only time that they will be is the ones who take algebra or a foreign language.
And it is taking it back to that, and I think Tina, they can attest to that too, that the 7th and 8th grade had a world of their own. And
That's what I've
with,
heard.
You know, with the cuts that have had to be made,
Mhm.
programs that have had to be, that have been cut or, you know, eliminated, I can see, you know, I can see where it was necessary maybe to make as much use of the staff that was there
Mhm.
as possible, but I'm thrilled to know that maybe 7th and 8th graders are going to have a world of their own.
Yes, and I've heard stories, of the middle school, of, some other teachers were talking to me about it, and just saying that they miss, like you guys lost your identity, almost,
Yeah.
if that's, and I was a middle school teacher.
Pardon?
Huh?
Even though we like the air conditioning.
But I was a middle school teacher, and it's a special, and then your team and with the kids, it's just something that, so hopefully we can get your identity back in the building,
Are there any other
so thanks, Dan.
comments? Thank you, Mr. Furlong. Okay, Mr. Adams?
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mrs. Frola,
Yes.
Mr. Petrie,
Yes.
Mr. Hofer,
Yes.
Ms. Terry.
No.
passed. Number 7, service agreement, TransFinder. It is recommended that the board approve a service agreement with TransFinder to provide a software system for bus routing and scheduling. Motion,
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Ray.
I'll second.
You wanna talk what this is?
So TransFinder, we have reviewed several options in routing software in the market and received quotes on them. TransFinder, we believe will be the best product to fit our needs and within our budget there. We've talked to them, and implementation in before school starts here is going to be tight and a lot of work, but I think Melinda's up for the challenge. She's been routing for a long time, and I believe this is a great software product, which also includes a lot of parent communication tools. It includes an app to help keep parents updated when there's changes to the routes, and as we progress through with GPS technology, parents can look and see where the bus is at and how long until it's there, which will reduce a lot of calls and anxiety there through that process. So I believe this product has a lot of tools that will be very beneficial to us, and as we continue through, has other modules like Service Finder to help maintain the buses and that which are integrated right into this platform. So it'll be a great suite of tools for us to use in our transportation ventures.
Is the app going to be free to all parents?
Yes, it'll be free to parents.
Now, does that include the GPS on it now? Will you be able to see where the buses are at?
The GPS will be an additional service that we'll include at a later date there, and that is an additional item when we talked about costs that we budgeted for separately there as well. So the routing was the longest implementation, so that's why we have it on now, so that we can get that process started and have it in time for school to start.
Okay.
I think, Dustin, you also have to mention that a lot of other schools, districts use that software, and that is growing. That company is growing, so the chance of that company going out is slim. So that was one of my concerns, that we wouldn't invest in a company that's not, stable. It's growing, and its reserves are growing, so.
But they had a long list of schools in Ohio, and I talked to several about their experience with TransFinder. They've been very pleased with it, and they are a sponsor and work with the Ohio Association of Pupil Transportation Supervisors there, and so I think they're a very strong company with a great background, so.
Any other questions? All right.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Mrs. Frola?
Yes. Number 8, Ohio Schools Council bid authorization. It is recommended that the board approve an authorization to purchase from school bus bids received by the Ohio Schools Council.
So moved.
Second.
So this is, we belong to Ohio Schools Council, and it's a service that schools can join, and they do a lot of big purchasing for us, and so we can get things at a cheaper cost. So what they did for us here, as part of our cost with it, is that they went out and they did the bids and looked at the prices for the buses to make sure that everything that we were doing, we were getting the best deal possible. There were legal fees involved that we didn't have to pay for because we belong to this program. So this was a good service to help us make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. And I think they did
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Ms. Terry?
Yeah.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Mrs. Frola?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Motion passed. Number 9, municipal lease purchase agreement. It is recommended that the board approve a municipal lease purchase agreement with Santander, am I saying that? Bank, for 8 buses.
So moved.
I'll second.
So we went for a loan. Is that
Lease purchase.
A lease
fund.
purchase loan it's called. We were approved, so we were able to buy eight buses with this. And remember, once we get all the buses are gonna be ours. So, and one of our goals to getting the buses, is we didn't wanna get all the buses the same year, so we have buses that are, that range a span of years, so when we could start replacing them when we need to, instead of the incident that we ran into back in the 80s, where all our buses went bad at one time.
I think it's also important to realize that the money that we were spending for First Student helps to pay this
Yes.
lease off. So it's not new spending,
No,
it's transformed over to another item.
Yeah, on a per bus basis, we're spending less with the lease than we were spending with First Student per bus.
Ms. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Mrs. Frola?
Yes.
Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Number 10, motion passed, sorry. Number 10, revised financial recovery plan. It is recommended that the board approve a revised financial recovery plan. Mr. Adam, or, no, first we need a motion, don't we?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Mr. Adams, do you have any?
Yeah. Let me get this done. When we presented the 5-year forecast, it was recommended from the state that our recovery plan needed to match our forecast. So we went through an exercise to make sure all the numbers match up. So basically, the revised recovery plan matches identically with our 5-year forecast. So what we're gonna do is, once we approve it tonight, we will send it down to the state superintendent and they will approve it, and then moving forward. Now, it's interesting to note that if, say we get more money, say the school gods open up and we get more money from the state or whatever, then we'll do another one, because my forecast will change. Conversely, if things get worse, then we'll do another one. It just links us with our forecast. That's about it. The forecast that was approved at the last board meeting, so.
Mr. Adams, I don't, any, Mr. Adams?
Ms. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mrs. Frola?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
All right, motion passed. Number 11, overnight and extended trips. 11.1, boys basketball. It is recommended that the board approve an overnight extended trip for the boys basketball players and chaperones to travel to the University of Findlay to attend a boys basketball team camp from June 9 through June 11, 2023. All expenses for this trip will be paid through fundraising and the participants. 11.2, girls basketball. It is recommended that the board approve an overnight extended trip for the girls basketball players and chaperones to travel to the Cedar Point Sports Center to attend the Point Team Camp from June 13 through June 15, 2023. All expenses for this trip will be paid through fundraising and by the participants.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Terry?
Yes.
Mrs. Frola?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Motion passed. Number 12, citizens' comments. Participants will be limited to 5 minutes duration. Are there any citizens' comments? All right, seeing none, and we have another meeting here coming up. Are there any board members that want to comment on or have anything?
I do.
So while I understand that my no vote on an agenda item tonight might be taken as a negative by a lot of people, I do have my own reasons. Our levy failed again. This is now multiple failures in multiple years. We are still in financial watch, or fiscal watch, and have been for almost 2 years. We cut more educational positions this year. We've lost more students. We've lost more programs for our kids. We have made families pay for extracurricular activities for over 2 years. All of those reasons make it hard for me to sit here and vote yes to adding positions to our administrative staff when things are not being added for our students and our teachers. I know that some will take my position of a no vote to mean that I do not support or value our administrators. That is very far from the truth. I value all people that support education. However, I do not think now is the time to add more positions to the administration. We have asked our students and our teachers to adjust to things being taken from them. We've asked them to keep hope, keep showing up, keep pressing forward with less for less. The new motto in this district has been, do more with less. And it seems like that's what's expected from our kids. I dislike that so many things on the agenda are lumped together, so me voting no on one item could come across that I do not support many of the things on the item. I do. I support many people that were voted yes tonight. However, contracts in this district need to be looked at and changed. I can't keep voting yes on things that changed back in 2015 and 2016 and remain the same. I can't vote on contracts that haven't been adjusted for certain positions while things in our district continue to decrease for our students and staff. We can't continue to do what we've done for years as we lose kids, families, programs, and teachers. We need to value the needs of our students just as much as we value our leaders. I am not a politician. I have never believed in doing what others tell me to do just because they tell me to do it. We teach our kids to find out facts, learn with knowledge, don't be afraid to fail as long as you're doing the right thing. Don't be afraid to speak up. We can't continue to do things the same old Springfield way and expect change. Our district is in trouble, and without looking at things and making real change, we will continue down this path until we have nothing left to save. I ran for this seat because I wanted to make change, and I have failed up to this point. I admit I have had my voice silenced at times. Nothing has truly changed. My own kids and their friends and classmates have less and less each year. What my son had at 2019 when he graduated, my kids now do not have at all. Teachers are taking on more and more every day with less and less support. We need to make change and true change from the top to the bottom in order for our district to turn around. My no vote was not against anybody on. My no vote is because if we don't start making change, we'll have nothing left to save. I'm glad that everybody showed up tonight, but the sad part is that most of you guys are on the agenda, and that's why you showed up. Tonight, I'll get on Facebook and social media, and I'll have 40 people complaining about what we voted on tonight, but nobody shows up to make the change. So I spoke up. That's all I have.
You have board comments?
Yeah, I do. It's not been an easy 4 years. And as I contemplate a board seat this fall, it's been the roughest 4 years that I can see that we've ever had here. And there has been some change. And change is not easy. Change begins when somebody left, and I'm glad that person left. And now we have a new superintendent. And basically she was handed a basket and to put all the parts back in the basket. That's not an easy task. We have looked at things and decided things And you have to look into the future of where we can go. And I understand Miranda, I really do. I love her passion, I love her heart in this. But on defense of some of the things that we have done here, we're shifting some people around. We're not increasing costs. We're trying to make some moves that are gonna look, any organization starts with a board, the CEO, and that is the CEO. She's gotta make the hard decisions. We can either go up with them or we can go down with them. Where else would you want to cut? Are we gonna start cutting administrator salaries? Because that's tied in with the SLAC contract, am I not? And I got two people sitting here, and you know it is. If you haven't gotten raises, they haven't gotten raises. So it's not, one hand is not getting and the other hand is. No, that's not the case. I try to run on a platform of truth. My father always told me, tell the truth even if it hurts. And yeah, there's been times where I've told the truth and I've gotten clobbered for it. I think that some of the management changes that Shelley's trying to institute, and we don't see eye to eye all the time, and she knows it. I think that's our Italian heritage. But she's trying to definitely move this district forward. You've got 3 board members. Miranda's more outspoken than the other 2, and that's fine. We all come from different walks of life. I look at things, I was just telling Cynthia Friday night, I look at things a little bit different because of my manufacturing and the things that we've had to do in manufacturing in order to stay competitive in a world market. We don't live in a country where we just compete among ourselves. We compete in a world market. And what I would love to see, and I know there's tension between some of our unions and this administration, I know that. Industry is driven by performance in a term called Kaizen. And that's where you come together with management and workers, and the workers drive this. They want to see some change. I'm wondering if it can work in education. I've seen it work in manufacturing, in multiple different companies that are world-class, Parker Hannifin, Eaton, Saint-Gobain, even small companies in Kent, Ohio that's still in business when I left it back in '96. We don't take this lightly. I saw a whole division shut down and moved to Mexico because of greed. And I saw 575 people lose their jobs. And some of those people, they needed those jobs because their skills only allowed them to have that in the world, in the marketplace in which they found. We had to lay off at Portage Lakes. We laid 3.5 off when I was board president last. We rotate. My comment over there was, I'm tired of laying people off. I've seen too many people lose their jobs over my lifetime of my work. And I'm getting ready to close that chapter in 20 some months. We don't take this with a grain of salt. I have lost sleepless nights over the last 4 years over this. And I wish we could have it all back. I really do. The unfortunate thing of going through tough times is better times are coming. When I was terminated, this thought kept me going. The sun's gonna set in the west on any of the circumstances that we ever have, but it's gonna rise the next morning in the east, and that presents new challenges and new opportunities. And we have to embrace some of that, and some of it's hard, and I realize that. I went with 6 years without a pay raise at Kent Latex. That hurt me. My base pay, if you wanna call it that, my overtime pay, and it hurt me in my Social Security, and I had 3 small kids. And we made it. I got paid a bonus in lieu of a raise for 6 straight years, 2 complete contracts of 3 years apart, 3 years apiece. I get it, I understand, but I think some of the things that we're taking will lead us down a path of success. It's slow going, just bear with us.
I wasn't gonna comment, but I will, because I wanna say it again. Having been in, an assistant principal's, teacher's position, assistant principal's position, and long-term as a principal, I understand the time intensity that it takes to properly take care of kids. And the students in our district have a lot of needs. There's a big population that has a lot of needs, and you need people to be able to work with them. So I'm very comfortable with what is planned to happen at the junior high, taking it back, and I'm supportive of having the high school students have enough people to take care of them, because I understand what it does, you know, and not everyone does every Saturday and Sunday working on paperwork, so you can be out in the hallway all the time, so. Okay, any other comments,
I do.
please?
I just want to thank all of you here, because although I'm not an educator, I've worked with most of you on different things, and I know how passionate you are and how deserving you are of these spots. So I just want to thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay, all right. It is recommended that the meeting be adjourned at this time.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, Mr. Adams?
Mr. Petrie,
Yes.
Ms. Terry,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mrs. Frola,
Yes.
Mr. Hofer.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned.
Meeting adjourned. We're a little behind time, but anyone staying for the next meeting, we'll start here in just a couple minutes.
Let me, get to it.
Okay, Tyler, may we? All right. I'd like to call the special local school boards of education public hearing for a rehire on June 5th, 2023 to order. Mr. Adams?
Roll call. Mr. Petrie,
Here.
Ms. Terry,
Here.
Mr. Ray,
Here.
Mr. Hofer,
Here.
Mrs. Frola.
Pledge of allegiance. Item 4 is the contemplated employment of Christopher Adams as treasurer. This meeting is being conducted by a majority of the members of the Springfield Local School Board of Education pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 3309.345. The purpose of the law in this meeting is to provide members of the public and with an opportunity to express individual response to the board's contemplated employment of Christopher Adams in the position of treasurer. The statute is silent with respect to the way in which this meeting should be conducted and appears to leave such matters to the discretion of the Board of Education. Accordingly, this meeting will be conducted as informally as possible. Each person who wishes to speak will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board. The total amount of time for this meeting will be 15 minutes. The board will not condone any statements that are not based upon facts. Statements must be limited to the contemplated employment. Finally, as president of the board, I reserve the right to restrict inappropriate comments and the general procedure of the meeting. The members of the Board of Education will not entertain questions, respond to comments, or interrupt the public's opportunity to express concerns or make statements, as long as they are appropriate and within, and fact-based. Each person addressing the board shall identify himself, herself, and give his or her address. This meeting is required by law and is the right of the public with which this board understands and respects. Okay, at this time, is there anyone present who would like to speak or ask questions? Mr. Furlong,
So. there seems
give
to
your
be-
name, full name and
Donnie Furlong, 3206 Winchester. Being a treasurer seems like a very kind of underwhelming job, like not flattering to understand.
yeah, is the speaker, yeah,
Not
Okay.
please.
So, being a treasurer is kind of a tough job in many ways, in my approximation, just because you're kind of at the mercy of what you're told to do, right? As a treasurer, do you make decisions or do you give recommendations? As a treasurer, do you go spend money without being told how to spend it? So, finding someone to fill this role with a background that makes sense, understanding the books, how P&L statements work, how a pie chart works, how layman people who don't know how to break down pockets of what goes into that P&L group is a difficult situation for mostly everybody, right? So, to me, I think there's just a lot of confusion about personality versus how you prepare for a meeting, about how information flow works. So I think just breaking it down, making it make sense. If there are like specific questions, I know the finance committee has started, and I think that I've heard a lot of pros that have come from it. It seems like people are being receptive, open, kind of listening more, and so they have the opportunity to understand what it actually means. To go hire someone from the outside is probably a very difficult situation. I doubt you have people banging on the door that want to be a treasurer, but I just think, I hear chatter from everybody. I talk to everybody. I have students in the schools, and people from the Lakemore community. Everybody talks, but they say, this person's to blame, this person's to blame, but if there's full transparency of every cent, what are we missing? So that's all I got.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment? The board is open to any comments. Okay. If there are none, it is recommended that the meeting be adjourned at this time.
So moved?
Been moved and second. Mr. Adams, would you call roll?
Second was, I'm gonna have to move back to my old format. Can't hear. Miss Terry?
Yes.
Mrs. Frola?
Yes.
I lost it, Dustin.
Just use a pencil.
Let me show just a.
Wi-Fi dropped.
One piece of paper.
No. Miss Terry?
Yes.
Preacher? Yes. Mr. Hooper?
Yes.
Mr. Ray? Yes. Mrs. Frola? I'll remember what time.
I'm sure you will. All right, the motion has been approved. The meeting is adjourned.